Well, let's just start. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Pure Soul Ask Nikki. Thank you for joining today. Um, I wanted to just first start by saying, like, we've been doing this for a year. And so it's like our year anniversary because June is when the Pure Soul membership started. And so I just wanted to say thanks so much for hanging in there and for participating. I appreciate that. I also wanted to just make sure everybody is aware that Marissa is now working for me and she's doing the social media and has added a lot of great content to Almapura, both on Instagram and on Facebook. So I hope everybody is really enjoying the new content. I love it. So she talks to me about it all the time, and she does Tarot Card Tuesdays. And it's really great if you go on Facebook or Instagram on Tuesdays, you'll be able to see her rendition of what the cards mean to her. And what I really like about the way Marissa does the cards is she always seems to bring God into it a lot and really connects you to yourself. So it's really great if you get a chance to take a look at that. And this month we have a discount on the mentorship. So I don't know if you guys saw that on the Pure Soul member, the Pure Soul member page, but that's always a great session to have because it's how I am able to help you talk to your own spirit. So hopefully you'll take advantage of that because there's a pretty good discount on that. And I think that's it for the hellos, but this month, I thought we would start, I mentioned it in the video. So if you got a chance to see the video from this month for the For You and Not Against You video in there, I was describing that what I thought would be really fun is if everybody brought to the session today their best life lesson, and that you share a little bit about what is your best life lesson, how did you come to learn that life lesson, and how has it benefited you. So I can start with that, or if someone else would like to begin with that, we can do that. Does anybody want to begin talking about the best life lesson for them that they ever learned and share that with everybody else, or would y'all like me to start?
You start.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm making my screen different because I can't see everybody. So hold on one sec. So I have two life lessons that I think really impacted my life. And the first one is pretty basic in a sense that you become what you judge. And I think that it was one of the strongest life lessons I had because I found that in the past, prior to my awakening, I was critical of people sometimes, or I would judge them or think that they should do things a certain way. And after I had the awakening, I started to portray through empathy, like some of the behaviors that I saw in other people that I had criticized. And I saw that around me also. It was like this time of my life where judgment was pretty significant. And so I noticed that like my husband had tendencies that his father had, or, that my daughter had tendencies that her dad had, and vice versa. So I started to recognize that the people around me portrayed characteristics of other people in their life. And most of the time, the characteristics that they were portraying of those people in their life were critical. So they had previously judged that person about a certain behavior or action. And then they themselves perpetrated the same action or behavior. And I was also doing that. And so I started to get this mantra like, oh, you become what you judge. And you really do. And the reason that you become what you judge is because you have to, in that judgment, because we can't judge other people because we're not God. And so we don't really have a right to judge other people. So in the judgment of other people, it means you don't understand where they're coming from. It means that you can't comprehend why they would make a decision that they make, or how could they treat you a particular way. And so the become what you judge is when you start to experience the same things they experience, and then you start to behave in the same manner. And so you adapt those same characteristics. And that was huge for me. And when I realized it, really judgment, in a sense, really came out of me because I became what I judged. And I didn't like what I judged in the first place. So then to become it and see it in myself, that was kind of heartbreaking for me. And then to see it in other people, that was also pretty heartbreaking to me. And so after I mastered that, after I recognized how to let judgment go from my life, one of the things, it became kind of a funny, it kind of became funny. You know, I had one dog for 15 years, and my cousin's friend had 5 dogs. And so we went over to her house on a like a holiday picnic party, and these 5 dogs are running around. And I kept telling Marissa, this lady's crazy. I'm like, she's crazy. What the hell is she thinking with 5 dogs? I don't know how anybody could handle 5 dogs. I mean, that is insane. She's crazy. And it was a funny judgment, but nevertheless, it was a judgment. Well, then I got another dog who was a rescue. And then that dog wanted a dog. So I got that dog a dog. And then we wanted another dog. So we got those dogs and us another dog. And it kept going. And so when we were at 4 dogs, I was like, well, at least we're not as crazy as Tina. I mean, she's got 5 dogs. At least we don't have 5 dogs. Well, we blew her away because now we have 10. And so that was kind of like a funny judgment, but that conveys what I'm talking about. And so that was one of my biggest and best life lessons. The other life lesson that I wanted to share today, that some of you may have heard in the past, but I received a phone call about 25 years ago. And I could tell that when the woman was on the other end, she was old. You know, you could tell by her voice that her voice was old. And so I answer the phone and I'm like, hello. And she goes, hello, is this Nikki? I said, yeah, this is Nikki. And she goes, are you the one that does the readings, dear? And I go, yeah, that's me. And she goes, well, my name is Jean. And can you tell me a little bit, like, how much is it and how long do you do them for? And I said, well, I do 30 minutes. I said, you can select, hold on, I got a hair in my mouth. I bit my own hair. So she says to me, are you the one that does the readings? I said, yes. And she goes, well, how long are they for? I said, well, you can select 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or 60 minutes. And she goes, okay, great. And do you use them all? I go, oh yeah, I use every style. I go, you can select however long you want. And she goes, yes, dear, but do you use them all? I go, yeah, I use them all. If you want 30 minutes, then you can pick a 30-minute session. If you want 45 minutes, then you can pick a 45-minute session. And if you want a 60-minute, then you can pick a 60-minute. And she goes, but do you use them all? I said, use all of what? The minutes? And she goes, yes. Do you use all the minutes in the session? And so I'm confused. And I'm like, so like, you mean if you order like a 30-minute session, do I use all of the 30 minutes? And she goes, yes, dear, that's exactly what I mean. I go, well, yes, because it's a 30-minute session. And she goes, well, that's wonderful, dear, because I'm 85 years old and I don't have a lot of minutes left on this earth. And I really don't want you to waste any of my minutes. Silence. I couldn't speak. My brain blew up into 1,000 pieces. And I thought, I couldn't comprehend this. That she didn't want me to waste her minutes. And that she didn't have very many minutes left on this earth. And it impacted me so much that later that night I sat down to watch SVU or, you know, whatever the lawyer show is. So I sit down to watch it and I hear, I don't want you to waste my minutes. And I was like, oh my God, I'm wasting my minutes. I could videotape this, cut out all the commercials, and then I wouldn't waste the minutes on the commercials. So everything I did, it kept coming back, her voice, her message. Is this how you want to spend your minutes? Is this how you want to spend your minutes? I had an argument with my husband, and as we're arguing, and I have so much energy going toward the argument, I'm hearing, is this how you want to spend your minutes? And it changed my life. My entire life changed that day, because everything I did after that was, do I want to waste my minutes doing this, or do I want to spend my minutes doing this? And her name was Jean McCrew, and she died several years later, but we became really good friends. And I spent once a week with her for a half an hour where we would have half-hour sessions, and we used all the 30 minutes and everything. But I think that that is the best thing that I can share with people, is to really value the time and that they spend doing things. And when you're doing them, be focused on them. Don't waste those moments, because really none of us know how many minutes we have left. So those are my 2 life lessons. Would anybody else like to share a life lesson today?
Okay, I'll go.
Okay.
So I thought that was interesting. When I started listening to the video, well, when you preface the video with, "Hey, come with your life lesson," the first thing that came to my mind was when I got laid off. And I'm like, wow, that was a major, major blow. And then you go into your video and you talk about how things are not done to you, they're done for you. So one of the things that I didn't do through most of my life is listen to my spirit. I would always tell her to shush. It didn't, wasn't the time. No, I'm not doing that. Even though I heard her, I wouldn't acknowledge her or listen to her. And then when I got laid off, it slammed me to the ground and dehumanized me so that after a couple of days, I realized, well, shit, I better get off this couch, because if I don't get off this couch, no one's coming to get me off this couch. And I think what I realized is that being laid off was being done for me in order to bring me to a place pretty much broken in order to start to listen. And then I realized that if I don't listen and the universe has to realign me, it's going to be freaking ass harsh as shit, because I won't listen any other way. So I thought it was really interesting, Nick, the whole video and how those two things tied together, because the life lesson was due to something being done for me. So that was mine.
Awesome. So I hear a couple of things in there. First of all, when our spirit is indicating for us, no, I think it's great. When our spirit is giving us those inner prompts, and we can receive those inner prompts, predominantly our spirit likes to talk to us in our crown chakra, because that's connected to words and phrases in our brain. It's very connected to our analytical self. So our spirit self will traditionally choose our crown chakra to give us those inner promptings. A lot of times our spirit gives us inner promptings that are inconsequential to other people, like do your laundry, don't eat that extra piece of pizza, or whatever your spirit inner prompt is. And whether you do it or whether you don't, you're really the only one that's going to suffer the consequence of that. But they're inconsequential, and it doesn't matter if you have to wear dirty jeans tomorrow because you didn't get up to do your laundry when your spirit told you to. But the reason that those little prompts are so important is because you build up a communication or a conversation, a form of friendship with your own soul, that she starts to count on you paying attention to her. So that's your best friend. So if your best friend was standing next to you and you're not even paying attention to her or acknowledging her, she wouldn't be your best friend very long, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you think of your spirit in that context, that she is your friend, and if she's saying, hey, you should go throw in your laundry while you're in the middle of watching a TV show, she knows something you don't know, because she's connected to the all. She's connected to everything that's one. You're connected to your own individual piece of the one. And so your spirit can really guide you. And if you listen to the little things and you develop that friendship, then she knows, and you know that you're protected from the big things. Because then if, after listening to your spirit for years, you recognize that voice, you know what that inner prompting is, you know what that friend sounds like inside of yourself. So if you go to pay $3,000 to go to a European trip and it's a non-refundable ticket, but you go to get on that plane and something says, don't get on the plane, are you going to humanly talk yourself out of it and say, nope, that's a non-refundable ticket, I'm going to lose $3,000, my luggage is already on the plane, I can't get it off, I'm going to have to try to figure out how to get my luggage, I'm just going to get on the plane? Because that's what we do. We talk ourselves out of our gut instinct. We argue with ourselves out of the thing we know. We get the answer right away from our spirit, and then our human brain goes into like a response mechanism, and then you talk yourself onto a ledge, right? And then you don't know what to do. But if you listen to the little things, when you go to get on that plane, if your spirit says don't get on that plane, you're going to be like, all right, I don't need to know why I ain't getting on the plane. You don't know why, you just trust, and you build that trust through the little things. So when you were saying, Pam, that you heard it. But again, it's difficult to make the decision to listen to your spirit because they're such inconsequential things. You walk past the linen closet. Your spirit's like, you need to clean the linen closet. And you're like, yeah, yeah. And every day after that, you walk past it 5, 6, 7 times. And every time you walk past it, you hear it again and again and again. What if you just listen? Then every hard decision that you have to make in your life, you already have the answer to. It's already there. You have all the answers. You just think you don't have the answers because you argue back to your spirit. And your argument comes from your conditionings on earth. So if your mom was a jerk, or your dad was a jerk, or you had that one teacher, and you have all these conditionings and opinions and beliefs, that's what you argue back with. So basically, you're not even arguing from yourself. You're arguing from what your mom and dad said when you were 7. You're arguing from that teacher who told you were stupid. You're arguing from that parent who left you, and that person who abandoned you, and that boyfriend or girlfriend that broke up with you. You're arguing from that. So that means even in your argument back to yourself, it's everybody else's opinion. It's what they said. Your argument back to yourself is what they said. But what you say is that little voice, right? And so when we go through a lot of periods in our life that are very difficult, that we're trying to listen to that inner voice, but we don't, it's not that you are then you're screwed. If you don't listen to yourself, you're screwed. That's not true. You don't have to listen to yourself. That's the beauty of being human. You have free will. You get to listen to whatever side of yourself you want. But if you are looking to be aligned with yourself, you can count on the fact that the universe is going to put you back into alignment. Because you came here for a purpose, you are going to do that purpose, whether you like it or not. So how do you want to do it? By listening to yourself and following? Or do you want to keep ignoring yourself so that the universe has to restructure and realign you back to the place you're supposed to be? So now you're going to get knocked down so that you can readjust into the flow of the universe, which is why you came here anyway. So you see? So your life lesson is good because it's like, hey, you can take the easy way toward change, which is just by listening to yourself, or you can take the hard way and let the universe take care of it. But if the universe takes care of it, it's usually a few years after you've been telling yourself something, or a few months after you've been telling yourself something, right? So now you're going to be rushed. It's going to slam you down. It's going to knock you off your horse. And that's it. You're at ground zero then, because now you have to catch up with the desperation of all the people around you that you were supposed to have affected if you would have listened to yourself, right? So when you don't listen to yourself, you throw off the alignment of every single person around you. Every time you don't listen to yourself, you're screwing the one, and all of us are part of the one. You see? So every action, it does have that ripple effect. So that's why it's so important to listen to ourselves so that we don't have to try to play catch up with everybody that we care about and the people that we're supposed to do our mission for. I love your life lesson. I think that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. Who would like to go next? Britt, you have one bubbling in the top of your brain and I can see it. Like I can literally see it in your spirit. Like I was looking at the screen to see like who wants to do it next, and you have this like little popcorn, but it's like little light sparks. But go ahead.
Yeah.
What's your life lesson, honey? Is it about me?
I mean, aren't they all?
Oh no, but go ahead. I can take it.
It's good. No, it's good. It's good. I think one of the things that I learned from you, so you can tell the original story, but the lesson at a summary is separate the message from the messenger. And related to that is you can always ask for what you want and the universe will provide it. So the story where that comes from is you're Mr. Mollison blocking you from walking across the street and you thought, oh, this is a dad, and you wanted dad feelings and you got a dad. So I challenge the universe when I need something. I ask the universe for the thing, and then I detach myself from the expectation of what that thing is supposed to look like when it's delivered. So we have had a lot of people in our life, in our family, not do the thing that they were supposed to do. Dads, aunts, uncles, grandfathers, we have missed out on a lot of people playing the role and giving the message that they were supposed to give. But I have no shortage of aunts, uncles, grandfathers, dads, siblings. I have no shortage of that because I ask the universe, what do I need? And the universe is like, oh, here you go. You want a brother? Here's a brother. Take Pam's nephew to go paintballing. That was my little brother that day. Oh, you need a uncle? Okay, here is Amanda's cousin who is great and he's going to show you how to do this thing on your car. Oh, you need affirmations from work because you have a shitty boss? Here's this random person who's just going to tell you you're awesome. And so my biggest lesson is like, ask for what you want and then let the answer come to you because it will.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't have to retell it. I think you did.
No notes on
I
that
think
one,
you told it great. No, I think you told it great. I will expand a little bit on the Mr. Mollison thing. Mr. Mollison is my attorney, and he is a wonderful man. And my dad was not such a wonderful man. But I always wondered, like my friends would say to me, oh, my dad will take care of that. And I'm like, your dad's going to take care of that? Like, whose dad takes care of your car? Like, what? And it, you know, and I could not for the life of me understand how these girls, my friends in the military, how they would be able to call their dad in another state and he would like rush down or send money or like whatever they needed. And it was foreign to me that was real. And so in my prayers, I had said, I don't know what that feels like. I don't know what it feels like to have this feeling. Like, what does it feel like to them? Like, how do they know that's a dad feeling? Like, I want a dad feeling. And so I had went to lunch with my attorney one day and we went downtown and we were walking past the Bean or past Millennial Park. And I don't know, we were going to cross the street and I'm a little distracted sometimes. So I stepped out into the street and there was a literal bus literally coming at me, like not far away. And he grabbed my arm and he yanked me out of traffic. And he didn't say anything. And I didn't say anything because I was like freaked out. I was very close to like my death. And so he pulls me out of traffic and then very calmly turns me around and puts me on the inside of the street so that he can protect me. I guess that's the gentleman thing to do, but that's what he did. And he put his arm in my arm and then we continued to walk down the street this way. And there was this moment of clarity. And I was like, that's what it feels like to have a dad. And that, I don't know if it was because it wasn't from my father, but it was from this man. That moment is an eternal experience within me. There is no wonderment. I don't need to go out, to dinner on Tuesday. He doesn't have to come over and cut my lawn or anything like that. He doesn't have to come and plant flowers. That moment is always present within me. So a really beautiful thing about when you release your dependency and expectation on the people that you think you should receive that gift from and be open to it, because there's no expectation connected to it And the moment has no condition upon it. It is eternal. It's not temporary. So, do you know what I mean? Like, do you understand what I mean? Am I explaining that okay? Because that is something that like I hold really dear to me, and that I feel it today, just like I felt it that day. There's no time lapse in there. I can access it. It feels like it's happening right this moment. Right this moment. And so I did realize that when there is no expectation of the people around you to provide you what you think you need, when it comes, it becomes an eternal experience, and it is unconditional, and it stays forever. And that's probably the biggest thing that I learned that day. To go a little bit further on what Britt was saying about don't shoot the messenger, I have some truth speakers on the call today, and it's difficult to have a job of truth speaking because we have to tell the truth. And sometimes that's difficult because we don't want to hurt people's feelings, and we don't want to shatter them, and we feel guilty if we have to tell them some kind of truth. But if we have a hard time sharing the truth, we have to question ourselves. If we can't authentically say something, we have to question ourselves, where is the dependency between me and this person? Because the dependency you have on another limits you from being authentic in your truth, speaking with them. And we all have people in our life that we love deeply, that are very connected to us, that we want to share, guidance or information with, or sometimes we have to share a hard truth with them, but we're afraid to do that. And the reason that we're afraid to do that is because we have a dependency on them. We think we need them in our life. And if we say something, we might push them away. And that's a difficult choice to make. But I do encourage you, like Brittany says, don't shoot the messenger. Sometimes that message comes from the people that we love. Sometimes it's our mom or our sister or our brother or our best friend or our dad or somebody that's close to us that when they tell us something, we get defensive, we get angry, we start to feel like, like, why would you say that to me? And if we can just listen for the message, then we know that that message is for us. This person was just the access point to get us that message. That's how we received it. But we could have potentially received it from a lot of different places. And so be open to people's truth towards you. Listen to what they're saying. Try to figure out what is the message behind what they're saying. Like, why are they saying that? Maybe it has nothing to do with them. Maybe it's just what the universe needs you to know. Maybe it's God trying to realign you or readjust you. Maybe you need that information. Right? So I learned that lesson when I had a really good friend that I used to talk to pretty significantly all the time. And I really depended on that friend to be like one of my cheerleaders, like, oh, that's so great. It's so awesome. Congratulations. And really like validate me and lift me up. And then that friendship ended abruptly, and it ended. I don't even know why to this day, why that friendship ended. They just stopped like from one day to the next. And so that abrupt break in the friendship really like broke my heart. And I remember praying that night and telling God, like, they provided so much for me and myself. I don't know what I'm going to do. I said, so I don't know how you're going to fix that, God, but I hope you fix it. And I hope I recognize when you fix it, because that person was able to trigger my mind in a way that was very unique. And I was so afraid to lose that. And so the next night after my prayer, after the abrupt friendship break, I was scrolling through the internet, and there was like some talk started to come on, and I was working, and then the talk was like kind of getting in my ear, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And so I stopped working and I started watching this YouTube video of Sadhguru. And oh my gosh, the things he was saying was triggering my mind. And I realized after this hour-long YouTube that I watched that I had received exactly the same mind trigger, the same validation from this mystic talking on YouTube. And I was like, thank you, because then I understood that the information was the same, the trigger was the same. So it must not be specific to neither the mystic I was watching nor the friend I used to speak to on the phone. See? So you will always have a messenger. Someone will always help guide you. If you aren't listening to yourself, the universe will provide you the messenger. Just don't get mad at the messenger when they tell you the truth. And sometimes you're going to be tasked to be the messenger. So try to deliver that truth in a kind and compassionate way. And even if they don't receive it today, if you need to say it, they need to hear it. And they might not think of it for 6 months. Maybe it'll pop into their head 5 years from now. You know, our moms told us stuff when we were little, right? And they told us stuff when we were 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. When did we hear them? When we were 16 at a party. Your mom pops into your head with that lesson, you know? My mom said something to me when I was like 7. If anybody ever tries to grab you, fight like hell, bite them, kick them, punch them, just fight like a crazy person. Nobody wants to kidnap a crazy person. That's what my mom said. So I had an experience, and that's exactly what I did. But it was years later, like years later. And I'm in the middle of this altercation as an adult, and I'm hearing my mom fight like hell, bite, scratch, kick, jump, punch, scream, be crazy. And it worked. I didn't hear it. I didn't think about it my whole life, but she told it to me when I was little, and it was available to me that day. Right. So even if, you know, say what you need to say, because you don't know when they need your information. You don't know when they're going to use it. Maybe they don't like it today, so they're going to brush you off. They're going to get mad at you. But I guarantee at some point they're going to come back and be like, oh my God, you remember that one thing you told me? Like you totally popped into my head yesterday. I thought of you, like you came into my brain. And people do that all the time to each other, right? So Brittany's life lesson of don't shoot the messenger, and be nice when you're the messenger or you're going to get shot. So, okay. Thanks, Britt. Does anybody else have a life lesson or have a comment on any of the lessons that we've shared today? Haley.
Yeah. So to kind of after what Pam said, it kind of, I guess, builds on this idea, but, you know, when you had mentioned like, what's this life lesson, right? The first thing that kind of popped in my head was, beyond anything, it's more important to be truthful and align with yourself than to please other people. And I guess what I've learned from that is, I see this a lot just in work, is a lot of people are like people pleasers and they want to do, but I've noticed when you become so out of line with yourself, I've noticed people get super anxious, super sad, and they're like, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. And I've just realized when we put other people, not in kind of a very superficial way, right? Like in front of ourselves, our values, who we are, what's important to us, what we feel, that's only temporary because they're always switching. So if we're trying to be just with like if I'm trying to please this one person and then please this person and this person, I lose who I am and I'm forever. That's temporary.
Right.
So I've lost, that's why I feel like so many people are like, I don't even know who I am anymore, because we've lost sight, because I'm trying to please that person and this person and that person and this and this. And it's like, who am I at this point? Because all I've done is try to please everyone. And I feel like I've failed, because how can I please them when I'm not them and they don't even necessarily know what pleases them? So I guess that lesson is being in line with yourself, truthful to yourself, and ultimately expressing like who you are. Like you didn't come here to be, you know, I didn't come here to be you. You didn't come here to be me. I didn't, you know, like none of that. So that wishing, it's just this acceptance of, this is who I am, accept me for who I am. And if, you know, like if you're not here, then you're not supposed to be here, right?
Mhm. So, so you're basically, so can you summarize?
Yeah, I think just the
Like a
last,
cool catchphrase? Like, what's your catchphrase?
to be in line with yourself is more important than in line with somebody else's values. You know, be
That's
truthful
perfect.
to yourself.
How do you know, and this is just a question I'm posing, how do you know when you're out of alignment with yourself? How do you know when you are on that path to losing yourself? What is the thing inside of you that indicates, uh-oh, I'm kind of stepping away from myself right now? How do you identify that so that it doesn't happen in that cycle, that momentum that you're saying, oh, I'm trying to please this person and this person and this person and this person so much that I lose sight of who I am. I don't even know what I want anymore. What is that thing that what alerts you to you doing that? Because a lot of times we just love the people in our life, and of course we'll help them, we'll run to them, we'll please them, we'll try to do whatever we can. How do we know when to draw the line? When is that, when, and how do we make sure that we don't lose ourselves, but yet still be the generous and loving people that we intend or want to be with the people in our life? Because the world taught us, our faith has taught us,
Yeah.
you know, how do you love? You love by doing for others. But if you're doing for others and you lose yourself, what's the indicator there? How do you know not to fall into that? What point tells you stop?
So the thing that really pops in my mind when you ask that is true honesty, right? Of like, let's say you ask me like, hey, like I need you to come help me do this. And I'm like, I would love to, right? But like maybe I'm exhausted and I'm just like, maybe there's not even this great of a reason, but if I just say like, I would love to, but now's not the time for me, right? Like I have to know my limits and my boundaries, right? And I think that's honoring yourself, but also honoring the other person. Like I'll say to people, like if they ask me for help and I can't do it, right now doesn't work, but always feel free to keep asking, right?
Mhm.
I just, and I guess to go back from all the way to the beginning is you need to learn what that voice is. And I guess that's why it's hard for me because I've been doing it for quite some time that I can't even differentiate what's not me versus that other voice. But at some point in time, I know that was there, right? I would just do it blindly. Like, I guess a good example was what pops in my head is when I was little, little by meaning in high school, my cousin's boyfriend at the time, which they're married now, their brother, who was a little bit younger than me, had a big drug and drinking problem. And I was severely depressed at that point. And I was like, I can save him. I can fix him. Just let me help him. And I was willing to sacrifice myself at the means of putting myself through the fire when I had nothing to even give. So I guess it's knowing yourself of what can I give now? And I think that's maybe why no one takes it. If I say no, they're not like, what a, look at that lady.
Right.
But they just
Right.
know, like, like
Right.
it comes from such an honest place. Like what you see is what you get with me. So I'm not lying. There's no farce. There's no, there's no deception. It's me. So I
So
think,
Mhm.
I just think it's
No, go
the
ahead.
honesty factor, right? That I'm going to be very honest of what my limitations are. And if you can't accept those limitations or boundaries, like that's okay. Doesn't mean anything about me. It doesn't mean anything about you. It is what it is, right?
I Yeah, that's perfect, Haley. Thank you so much. And I think that you touched on something that you said the sacrifice part. And I think that's the thing that we can gauge inside of us is if we feel sacrificed to do something, maybe then we shouldn't be doing it, right? Because that feeling of sacrificing yourself for another actually is the way that your spirit can tell you, like, maybe you should honor yourself today. And that's how I gauge. If I don't, and that's the honesty factor. If I'm really honest, I don't want to drive you 2 hours to the doctor. Sorry. You know, if I'm really like, I'll do it, but like, if I'm really honest, I really don't want to do it. And then you feel it in your chakra system. So, you know, sometimes you'll have somebody call you and the phone will ring and you look at the phone and you're like, oh, that's going to take an hour. Yeah, don't answer the phone then. Okay, don't answer the phone. Let it ring. Because if you feel a sense of sacrifice or you're involved in something else and you really feel that pull to know, then you don't do it. Right? Because you're not going to give that person truly from a free part of yourself because you feel sacrificed. And when you feel sacrificed doing something for someone else, you develop an expectation with them.
Well, think
if I do this thing for you, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's almost full circle of what you're talking about with the minutes. I can't waste my minutes. I can't sacrifice any of my minutes if it doesn't feel in line or it doesn't feel right. Right.
And sometimes that indication of sacrifice might not even have anything to do with you.
Yeah.
So it's just the way that your system responds. And everybody has an internal response. So a situation occurs and you feel something immediately, right? So we'll just use, I have a friend that I hadn't seen her in a long time, and we had made plans to go to lunch. And we were making the plan, and it was like, I don't know, a month in the planning, and we were going to meet a certain day at a certain restaurant and get together. Well, I woke up that morning, and I'm not kidding you, the last thing I wanted to do was get up, get dressed, and go eat lunch. I did not want to do it. I was like not feeling well. I didn't want to eat. It felt too early to eat. I didn't feel like being social. I just felt like a recluse, like I don't want to go. And I hemmed and hawed about this all morning, like maybe I should just call and cancel. That's what I was supposed to do because that was my truth. I don't want to go. And my brain kept saying, no, well, you had this plan for a month and you haven't seen her. And this is her birthday lunch. And like, what kind of friend would you be? And like, you're a horrible person. And this was just playing in my head all day. And then my spirit very cleverly is like, why don't you practice what you preach? And I was like, okay, so I have to call and cancel because that is my truth. And if I do go, I know how I'm going to be. I don't want to be there. I'm sure I'll have a nice time, but I'm going to be itching to get out of there. So I'm not even going to spend the quality time because I want to come back home. And so I decide, okay, well, I'm going to honor myself and I'm feeling this sacrificed for a reason. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I just need to take a nap, whatever. But I called my friend and I said, I am so, so sorry. I said, I know we've been planning this for like a month, but the last thing I want to do is go sit in a restaurant. And I'm like, I am so sorry. I love you, but can we like brain check this? And she goes, oh, Nikki, thank goodness you said that because my daughter and granddaughter showed up to surprise me. And they got here this morning. And I was thinking maybe I should reschedule with you. But I felt, I go, yeah, I know I already went through the whole thing in my brain of all the thousands of reasons why I should not call and cancel. But what I recognized that day is that I felt sacrificed. And because I honored that, so I wouldn't feel that, I was also honoring her by accident. And she was on her end doing the same thing. So energetically, we're having a conversation. Energetically, we are talking to one another. So if your spirit responds with something that says no, probably that person's spirit is also the one that told your spirit no. So there's another conversation that's happening in that level of spirit that gives you indications in the physical mind and the physical body and your human consciousness. And that's why you get those feelings. So spot on, Haley. Thank you. That's an awesome way to put it.
And then,
yes, Britt.
I just have something to add that I think is also helpful. So as we're talking about honor self, and like specifically with your example, Mom, about like I by honoring myself, I honored her. The other beautiful is that when people in your life
Oops, wait, you're
know that
frozen.
you are aligned with yourself and you're, oh no, can you still hear me? Hold on.
Yes.
Okay, better.
Okay, just start over.
Okay. So, as we're talking about how honoring yourself honors the other people in your life, like in your example, Mom, the nice thing is that when people in your life know that you honor yourself, they take your yes as a real yes. And they take your no as a real no. And they don't have to do the mental math of like, does she actually want to come? Should I cancel? Maybe she doesn't want to come. I know it's early. They don't have to do that because they know that you're going to take care of yourself. You're going to honor yourself. So you get to give the gift and they get to receive the gift without any reservations. And that's like another way that by honoring yourself, you honor the relationship, you honor the other person, you honor everything.
Oh, that's a great point, actually. That's a great point. Thank you. That's really a good point.
Like when you ask me to come out to the suburbs and I tell you no, and I'm like, no, I can't, you respect that. And you're like, yeah, because I know that if you know that if I did come, I wouldn't be there as my whole self. It would be like if you went to the lunch with your friend. But if you say,
Yeah.
come out to the burbs, and I come and I'm excited to be there, then the gift that I get to give to you in that moment is my full presence and my full alignment. And I get to honor our relationship better because I said yes or because I said no, and that was real for me. And you get to know that I take care of myself and I honor myself. So when I say yes, I mean yes. And you don't have to worry if I'm trying to get out the door.
And I gotta say though, that's so true. I just lost my train of thought. Oh, when you honor yourself and you do that, you actually you kind of help the other person honor their self. Because once you truly honor yourself, you don't want anybody to do anything for you that feels like a sacrifice to them. Like, I don't want you to do that for me. Please don't sacrifice yourself for me. Please, please, please don't do that because I'm not going to do that for you because Jesus already did that for all of us. Like, sacrifice already happened, right? He gave us that as our gift. If we would recognize the gift that he gave us, we wouldn't keep trying to pay twice at the window and keep sacrificing ourselves. Like, that was his gift. Like, I'm saving you. I'm saving your soul from sacrifice. I'm sacrificing myself so that you guys don't have to sacrifice yourselves. And then we come here and we sacrifice ourselves. So we're not even saying thank you for the gift. Like, that's his gift to us. Like, if you go to McDonald's and you get a cheeseburger and the cashier is like, oh, the lady in front of you paid for your lunch. Are you going to be like, oh, I don't care, take my money anyway? No, all of you are going to keep your money in your pocket. Why? Because the lady in front of you paid. So you're not going to double pay. You don't want to pay twice. You're not going to pay when somebody already paid your way. So if he already paid our way, why are we sacrificing ourselves? Because when we do that, then we create an expectation with the other person, and now they better sacrifice their self for me. Because look at everything I do for them. So they better help me. That's where we gonna run into problems. We run into problems because we expect everybody to sacrifice themselves because we sacrifice ourselves. And then nobody gets along. Wow, if we only realize that we already got that gift, how different the world would be. Right? So yeah, perfect. Thank you, Britt. Thank you, Haley. That was great. Anybody else want to share a life lesson? Linda or Sue or Marissa? No? Okay. So this was fun. I really enjoyed talking about all of these things. But we have about 8 to 10 minutes left. So we can kind of jump into our Pure Soul Ask Nikki. Does anybody have a question to ask me today, or do you have any topics that you want to discuss or anything you guys want to learn about today? Britt,
I'm sorry, it's the Brittany show today, y'all.
I love the Brittany show. It's my favorite show.
Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about patience and about like how to be patient for the things that you want, knowing that the universe wants to provide, knowing that sacrifice has already been made, knowing that things will happen when they're supposed to happen? How do you be okay waiting for them to happen when they're supposed to happen?
Are you okay with divine timing, or you want me to talk about patience? Because patience is not an emotion, it's a being. So patience
I guess I don't know the difference, or like.
So the 7 heavenly virtues, could you Google those? And Marissa will put them out later. But there's 7 heavenly virtues. You can Google them. We'll make a post on, Marissa will make a post on them if that's okay with you. But the 7 heavenly virtues we think of as emotions. So we think we should feel patient. Feel patient. Is anybody in humanity really patient? Or do we just keep trying to display that feeling? Because we're not. Human beings are not patient. And the reason we're not is because we think of it as an emotion that we should have. But patience, being a virtue, is actually, you can think of it like its own energy, or like an angelic being. And patience is its own thing. So I was in a session one day, and this woman, female energy, came into the session, and I'm on the phone with this lady. And I said, oh my God, I was like, this is like your mom or your grandma, but oh my gosh, she's just so calm and so peaceful. And I want to be in her presence forever. That's what I told this woman I'm on the phone with. And she's like, well, it ain't one of my grandmas, because they were not nice ladies. And I was like, no. And the woman that I was speaking to, this female energy, I could not let her go. I could not just be like, okay, that's a stand-in. I'm not going to pay attention to her. She's not giving me, the information I need to confirm her presence. And I am like stressing out that I don't know who this lady is. So I'm like, well, hold on, let me just ask my grandma, my default in heaven. So I go to my grandma and I'm like, Grandma, there's this lady here and I can't find out who she is, but I can't let her go. Who is this? So my grandma starts to laugh, and the woman introduces herself and she goes, well, I'm Patience. I was like, great. So I say to the lady on the phone, anybody in your family named Patience? I was like, did they call anybody Patience? Like, is it a nickname, or like, what is that? And she's like, no. And then my grandma's laughing more. And the lady says to me again, no, I am Patience. I'm like, okay, so your name is Patience. She goes, no, I am Patience. I'm like, wait a minute. You're like a being. You're not like a feeling. Like, I'm patient. Like, I can't even say that because I have to, like, you're a thing. And she's laughing and very kind. And then she stepped closer to my energy, and I felt patience. Everything in me settled. Everything became calm. There was no desperation in me. There was nothing in me, just calm. And then she stepped out of my energy. And then I was like, really? Really? This is amazing. You're like a thing. You're like an energy. And so I was so excited. But I noticed she kept doing that. Patience would come in, and then Patience would step back. And that's how I realized that I am not the one that is patient, but Patience visits me. And I can invite Patience, the being, the virtue, that energy that's so close to God, I can invite that to share space with my spirit. So Patience can step in and Patience can step out. So when you're thinking about how do I not gather this desperation while I'm waiting for these things that I've asked the universe to do, it means come into union with the energy that is patience. Ask that energy to join with your spirit because they come in and out. Likewise, we have the 7 heavenly virtues that are their own thing. We also have the 7 deadly sins, and those are also not emotions. So anger, wrath, you think you feel mad or you feel angry, but what's actually happening, the contradictory earth energy is wrath, and what contradicts wrath is patience. There's a virtue and a deadly sin. But we think that those things that we pray for or ask to release from our body is of our own doing. We think that we feel mad, but what if you're possessed by the demon wrath? Because when wrath comes in, your spirit steps out because you are connected to God in your soul, and the light does not entertain the darkness. So if wrath possesses you, you act in accordance to wrath, not to yourself. And you know why I know it's not to yourself? Because the next day when wrath has left your energy and is no longer possessing you, what do? You go apologize to the person that you said all that shit to last night because you were so pissed off. And you didn't really mean it, and you don't know why you said it, and you wish you wouldn't have said it. And that's not how you really feel. But when wrath possessed you and your spirit stepped out, wrath bastardized every emotion you have toward that person. And then wrath, having taken over you, takes over the person in front of you. Now wrath does a dance with wrath, and you and your partner are the puppet. So wrath is like, ha ha ha. Then when wrath destroys y'all, wrath leaves. And when wrath leaves, you feel it, don't you? You feel the anger leave. You're so pissed off at somebody, you yell, you scream at them, and then you feel vindicated. You feel better. Why? Because wrath just jumped to your neighbor. And now wrath has them, and then wrath is going to go all around and get everybody it can. Those are our earth energies. Mary Magdalene cast out 7 demons. What were the 7 demons that were cast out of Mary Magdalene? The 7 deadly sins. They are demons, not feelings. If you claim them, that's the trick. That's the trick. You claim them as your own. Would you ever claim a demon as your own demon? Never. But you claim them as your own. I am angry. No, you're not. You're possessed by anger. So patience is the opposite effect. And you can invite patience to come into your being. And the beautiful thing about the heavenly energies are that your soul loves to spend time because you are a heavenly energy. We are heavenly energy. So when patience comes, or when charity comes, or when caregiving comes, our soul participates with that other energy that we are sharing our body with. But when the deadly ones come, our spirit takes off. They're not going to entertain that. Does that answer your question, Britt? Okay, here's the human answer to her question. The human answer to the question and how to find patience in the context that we think is every day you have to do something toward that effort, because you can't let the dream become stagnant. So, for example, I have no retirement, right? And so I need to have retirement. Well, it's kind of late for me to start, but I am going to start. Now, I can sit here and wait for the universe to pile on the money and give me a retirement. But if I wait for the universe, I get impatient, right? I start to get desperate. I start to get a little bit worried. So what do? Every day or every week, I have to make an effort toward realizing my own dream. I have to do something about it, right? So last night, I read up all this stuff on Geist, which I wanted to ask you about, Pam. Geist, GEIS is the ticker for the stocks, but I didn't really know what it was. But I want to remain with patience in my presence. And so every day or every once a week, I will do something toward the thing that I'm waiting for the universe to provide for me. So I'm still going to take a little bit of responsibility for the outcome. And that's how you become patient, because you're never waiting. You're always doing something toward it. You're helping it, even if it's one little thing that you can do. Maybe it's just taking like a YouTube class, or researching some information. But if you do something toward it, you never feel like you're missing patience, because it's actively happening right now, all the time. Does that make sense?
Yes,
so that's
thank
what
you.
I do. You're welcome. So that's what I do when I'm trying to not be desperate and impatient about a particular outcome that I would like to happen. And it's better too, because if you are anxious about that particular outcome, then you miss how awesome it really is. Because you know how you want something when you're a little kid, like you want that gift and you beg for it and you work for it and you beg for it and you beg for it, and then you get it and you're like, well, it's okay. Right? So if we do something and we make it so we don't feel ever like we're waiting, if we don't feel like we're waiting, then there's no need to worry about being patient for it or not. And how do you not wait? Well, you do something about it. At least one thing. So there's two different answers for patience, but combine them, we are human and we are spirit. So do something toward your dream and invite patience into your presence. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Any other questions for today? That was a good question, Britt. Thanks. Okay. All right. I think then we're done. If nobody has any other questions or any comments to share with the group. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining. It was lovely having everybody, and hope to see you next month also.
We'll see you next